So welcome back to Filmworks Fantastic. Today I have a very special guest with us, and we've had a long journey already. Bonnie Rodini has such a rich career in specifically casting direction. So actors, actresses, this conversation is the one that you need to perk up your ears and get those notebooks out, because this is the stuff that you need to know from a casting director on a global scale, by the way, to understand what you need to do to hit those auditions and be called back for the next one. Bonnie, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. It's so lovely to see you again.
Bonnie, we're talking casting director already, and I've introduced you as that, but you are actually a creative in your own right, coming from an actress background and even more. Would you mind giving us the high-level story of your very colorful and rich career?
Sure. Well, I started as a ballerina. I studied ballet and went on to dance professionally for the ballet company in Cape Town. And I realized quite soon that a dancer's life is quite limited with age and physicality. So I resigned from the ballet company and I sold my clothes and my kitchenware to my fellow dancers, and I bought an air ticket and I went to New York and I enrolled in an acting school there called HB Studios. And they offered foreign student visas and they offered very affordable classes. And I ended up studying acting for 3 years. And I soon realized how incredibly difficult it was to become an actress, to get an agent, and to get work in America. It was literally impossible. So I thought, well, okay, let me create some work for myself. And I had studied a book called The Story of an African Farm in my matric year. And I knew a character in that story, Lyndall, and I thought I would love to play her. And I had a chance meeting with a very famous British screenwriter and director. And I sent him a copy of the book and I said, please, can you write the screenplay for me? And he said, sure, do you have $1 million to pay me? And I was like, no, don't be silly. I waitress and clean people's apartments and walk dogs for a living. I don't have that kind of money. So I decided to start writing it. And I got a sample of a screenplay from a film shop in New York, and I just copied the format of a screenplay: interior, exterior, description, dialogue. Wrote the first draft, sent it to the British screen director, and he said, actually, this is really good, and he gave me some notes. And that was the journey to me making The Story of an African Farm. But in that journey, I realized I didn't want to actually be an actress. I love being on the other side of the camera. So I continued pursuing that dream and trying to raise the finance for it. It took 13 years. I ended up getting Richard E. Grant involved in it. He played Bonaparte Blenkins. It got sold worldwide. And yeah, I was just busy minding my own business when a film production company in South Africa approached me and they said, we desperately need a casting director for this major film that's happening in Cape Town. And I was like, well, I'm not a casting director. And they said, well, you cast your own movie. And I was like, why don't I can't do this? And they said, please, Bonnie, we need you. And that was my first film that I cast, and that was Chronicle, which ended up being a blockbuster. And I think put Cape Town on the map for international film productions. And that production company just literally did not stop giving me work as a casting director. So I learned on the run and on the fly. And I got to know all the actors in Cape Town in particular. And that was the beginning of my casting directing career, an unplanned one.
Chronicle was just the start. We are talking now blockbuster upon blockbuster and large-scale films. I mean, the last large project that you and I engaged was One Piece. I mean, a global Netflix phenomenon with a following of fans. I mean, it's incredible, the project that you are busy with. Would you mind just giving us some of the highlights that Joe Public would know?
So another big one was Raised by Wolves. That was a Ridley Scott TV series shot here. I actually have to go look at my CV. I can't remember what I've done. I've done a lot. But South Cape Town is just an incredible platform for international work. There are major productions happening here, from Netflix to Amazon to Apple to you name it. We've got a massive industry here. So we're very grateful for it. And, sometimes actors say to me, I just want to get to Hollywood. I'm like, hold on a second. No, you don't. You're going to end up in Hollywood. You might get an agent, but you're never going to get seen. And actors here literally have a backdoor opportunity into Hollywood here. They can literally be seen for roles that you couldn't have dreamed to be seen for overseas. And I often get emails, sometimes calls in the middle of the night from people saying, please I'm desperate to be on this show. And these people are overseas and they can't get a foot in. Yet South Africans are so incredibly lucky to have the opportunity to audition and cast for these amazing shows and roles.
Let's move away from the lucky ones. I often get the question as a filmmaker, how do I become an actor or actress? And I'm sure you get that question more than me. Would you mind just sharing with us the steps typically that you would share with someone? What are the route ahead if you make the decision to become an actor or actress?
Well, I think you do need to start with some good, solid training. And whichever path you choose, there are various different techniques of acting that you can pursue. I think getting a combination of different teachers and different techniques is a really good way. But you do need training. You need voice training. And if you're working as a South African and you want to work in the international arena, you have to start working with your American accent, your British accent. So you need a coach for that. Or you can go online and start working just online. Charlize Theron, that's another part of my career. Many years ago, I used to shoot small TV inserts for television here. And I would find South Africans doing well overseas. And the one story was with Charlize Theron. And how she learned her American accent is she just turned on the television and onto a news station and just repeated the accent over and over again. She said she drove her roommate crazy, but that's how she trained her ear into an American accent. So you need to be versatile in accents. You need to have control of your voice and your breath work. And you need to understand the basics of acting. And that's just getting into class and doing classes. So that's the first thing. And then also, a lot is learned on set. So I wouldn't turn my nose up if I was right at the beginning of my career to doing extra work, because you get to understand a film set, you get to understand all the expectations. It's not that overwhelming. And then the most important thing is for actors to keep practicing their craft. A musician's not going to get up and try and play Beethoven if they don't practice piano every day. A ballerina's not going to try and get up and do Swan Lake if she isn't rehearsing 9 hours a day. So actors seem to think, oh, well, I must just show up and do the audition and get the role. But you're placing a lot of demands on yourself psychologically, emotionally, to just perform if you're not practicing. Acting is a muscle and you need to practice it every day. Like doing yoga, you need to practice it every day. You can't just demand that your instrument performs for you on cue.
Is there like a practical path? So I'm passionate, I'm trained. So what do I do now? Do I contact an agent? Does someone see me? How does it? How's it? Let's move into the practicality of my daily life now as an actor.
So what I would do is I would start researching who all the agents are in South Africa or in whichever country or city you live in. Who are the agents? Look, if you're living in Los Angeles, you've got to be you're not going to end up with CAA or Gersh or one of the top agents. You'll just get lost. You'll never get someone to return your phone call anyway. But if you're in South Africa, I would look at who the top 10 agents are, and have a look at their websites and say, who do I identify with? I would also go and look and see who they represent. So some agents have a very strong book of actors, let's say female actresses between 22 and 26, and that's my age range. I wouldn't go to that agent, because then you're competing inside your own agency. So have a look and see where an agent might have a shortfall of actors, your gender, your age range, and approach them, because they'll be more open to seeing you if they feel that they don't have enough actors that they're representing in that age category. And then it starts with emails, and contacting, and unfortunately, and being a little bit persistent and catching their eye and telling them why you're different. Also, you need a basic headshot and you need a CV. If you go online to any of these agents, you can see an example of what a CV looks like, how it's laid out, and you create one for yourself until you get an agent. When people have done courses with me, I'm very happy. If they've shown good work ethic and they have talent, I'm very happy to introduce them to agents. And the good news is there are a lot of new agents popping up, and they are good agents, and they are looking for new talent. And I'm constantly surprised at the new talent that's out there. And the way I work as a casting director, I love to know who's out there. I never just see the same people. I'm constantly searching for new people. I need to know I've seen everyone possible for the role. So you will get an opportunity with me if you are the right age category, if you've got an agent. And the good thing is there's a very strong chance, I'd say 80% chance, that your work is actually going to get seen by the directors and producers of the show. Whereas, because our pool is smaller. But in America, you might get 1,000 tapes for one role, and only maybe 100 make it through, and then only 10 make it through to the director and the producers.
That's really invigorating to hear. And you see these familiar faces on these shows. When you do watch them eventually, you do see these faces, people that I remember just sitting in line with other cast members, and you start seeing faces popping up, even if it's global commercials that you see. I was one time in Warsaw for a commercial, and I was seeing on the posters in the mall faces that were sitting across from me in those casting opportunities. And so the South African faces are everywhere. They might not be well known like Brad Pitt, but the opportunities are definitely endless. So now I finally have my agent, I get an email, I have a script, I have some lines that I need to prepare. Tell me, what can I expect? What is the practical experience of going to a casting, specifically here in Cape Town? How does it work?
So since COVID, a lot of castings are actually happening as self-tapes. You're not actually going into studio anymore. And it's kind of become the norm unless you get into a callback situation. So the first thing is to know how to do a good self-tape. And what's really important is just your lighting. So you want to have some light landing on your face. That's the first thing. The second thing is you don't want if you don't want this angle here, because then the room is auditioning. You're not auditioning. So you want to become closer into your frame, so I can actually see your face and your expression. In the introduction, I don't do commercials, so I don't need hands. I don't really need profiles. The most important thing to me is to get a glimpse of your soul in your introduction. You've just smiled, and your eyes lit up, and I get a sense of who you are. So, and then the most important thing is to follow directions, and that's all in the email. Your introduction includes your name, your agent, your height, both in meters and feet. The reason for that is that the Americans use one system, the UK use the other, and invariably in an international production, either the director's British and the producers are American, or vice versa. So I want to know how tall you are in meters and feet. And it is so frustrating when actors don't give that information. It's on the tip of their tongues. They know this information. And if they don't give it in their intro, I've got to go searching for it. So now already you're on a back foot because now I'm irritated. I have to go look for your CV, find out if, and then I see it's not on your CV. You know, it's frustrating. I would always suggest that if you are auditioning for the role as an American character, you do your introduction with an American accent so that you've led the creatives to believe you are American. You don't want someone hearing a South African intro and then going, this person's going to put on an American accent. Now, let me listen to see if they make any mistakes. You just want them to believe you are who you are. And then there's other information I might request. So your stunt background, or your physical activities, or what are your hobbies. And often, professional actors, I think they're so bored of doing introductions. They go, hi, my name is Bonnie Rodini, I'm 5'6" and 168. That's doing them no favors. It's part of your job. Just relax, give a nice friendly intro, all the information that's asked for, and that's your first step in the door.
Amazing. So it sounds like first impressions really do last.
100%. 100 first impressions, and also your body language. You know, if you sort of like not comfortable, you want to be just nice and relaxed and standing comfortable in your own skin. First impressions are key. Absolutely key.
Let's say you've seen so many wonderful cast members of varying quality, I suppose. What makes an audition stand out for you?
First of all, I want to believe that the words that you are saying, you understand what you're saying. So I'm looking for really natural, grounded performances. But the ones that stand out are the ones that make strong choices. So everybody gets the same script. And I'm telling you now, 90% of the actors will deliver the script in the same way. And then 10% will find a slightly different meaning to those lines. And those are the ones that make you sit up and go, now that's interesting. I've heard this said the same way for the last hour, and somebody's found something different. And the only way an actor can find something different is if they make strong choices. And by making a strong choice, they understand who they're talking to and what they are saying. So it's often not the top line. So the top line, I'm angry with you. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm angry with you. It could be, I'm angry with you. It just depends who I'm talking to and what it is I want from them. So I love it when actors think out the box and make strong choices.
So what do you wish new actors knew before they entered a casting studio or before they sent their self-tape? What are the things that they falter over that, man, you can see this as a newbie?
So let's say in casting studio experience, the first thing is, and I understand, people, when we get nervous, we do odd things or our brain sort of scrambles and we don't think straight. But if you walk into a room, a good idea is to go stand in front of the camera. So often people will come in and their nerves will show because they'll say, where should I go stand? Or where do you want me to stand? So generally there's either an X on the floor or go stand in front of the camera. So walk in, read the room, don't ask, a silly question, just go stand in front of the camera. And also not a lot of chit chat. Casting can be tiring. You're interacting with a couple of, 50, 60, 70 people a day. So just that engaging with each person personally is tiring. So just be calm. Don't ask unnecessary questions. Don't say, hey, how you doing? And it's so nice to meet you. And, that's tiring. Just go in, do your job. the most important thing is you've done your preparation. If you understand who the role is and you know your lines, the preparation is the most important. For self-tapes, it's getting your self-tape in on time. Don't wait for the day that it's meant to be delivered, then record it, and then your reader lets you down, or there's the internet's not working. The most important thing is to get your tape in time, or even a little ahead of time. And you can't believe how many times sometimes self-tapes just don't arrive, and you think, wow, you've lost this major opportunity. So it's getting into a rhythm as an actor and being disciplined as an actor, and your agent to be able to get hold of you. Sometimes agents just can't get hold of the actor. That's unacceptable. You should be able to reply to your agent within 30 minutes of them leaving you a message. Thank you, got the self-tape, we'll do it. Or, yes, got the casting request, I'll be there. There's got to be that quick communication between actor and agent.
So it sounds like basic professionality that is a major streamline, and also considering, that streamline of how the process works for the casting director. Ironically, trying to instigate a little conversation could actually not be in your favor. I was wondering, after a while you have this keen eye and you can suss people for their true intention, and I was wondering whether you can see whether someone goes to castings to become famous versus someone that is actually doing it because they love this craft.
If someone wants to do it because they're famous, they won't last very long, because it's a brutal industry. The rejection is unbelievable. You go to casting after casting after casting, and you don't book and you don't book. You've got to want it. You've got to love it. You've got to be passionate about it. So it's very rare that, because what you're talking about, someone who wants to be famous, it means they're sitting in their ego. Occasionally I might sense that someone's sitting in their ego if they very demanding, or but those people don't last long, because you can't. There's just too much rejection, and your ego just won't handle it. So that's something you've got to be aware of, is you've got to know you can't take it personally. You don't know why you didn't get the role. They might have cut the role. They might have changed the gender. You might be too tall because they've just cast someone much shorter. Now you're too tall for it. You don't know why you didn't get it. All your job is to prepare correctly for the role, show up, do the best you can, and walk out of that audition and not think about it again. And if you can practice those things, you'll be a much healthier, happier actor.
We're talking about how tough the industry can be. And do you think it's a reasonable expectation to do acting, and let's talk about Cape Town specifically, as a full-time career? Let's exclude soapies and those type of almost salary-based options from this conversation. But let's say, for instance, a daily casting experience. Is there enough work to do it as a full-time career, or should I have a balanced perspective where I develop other skills as well to almost make sure that I'm financially secure as well as living this passion?
I think it's critical to be able to do many things. I don't think it's sustainable to be a working actor back to back is incredibly difficult. There just could be a dry patch where there's just nothing for your age category. So what I like to say to actors is to stir different pots. So you've got your little acting pot going, but have other pots. And what are those pots? It's hard to say. But for me, I've got a little writing pot. So sometimes I turn my attention to writing. If there's a bit of a gap between castings, or then I also have my teaching, which I absolutely love. And so if castings are not that busy, I stir my teaching pot and I turn my attention to that. And like you do, you're running a podcast, you direct, you write. We need to be versatile in many different things. And what that is for each person, I don't know, but you have to look quite deeply inside yourself to find those other passions and you need to stir the different pots. Otherwise, if you're staring at the one and hoping it's going to boil, you're in trouble.
That's very true. I find that making sure that you have an array of skills that you can put on the table. And interestingly, sometimes you find that these skills actually complement the character that needs to be on the show, and it makes a differentiating person. Whether it's horseback riding or you love, I mean, we often see shows where even sword fighting becomes a thing. And if you have a certain basic, almost martial arts classes that you offer, there's so many opportunities in that, but then that also translates into your characters that differentiates you and give you that bit of upper hand, if I'm correct.
Yeah, and so first of all, upskilling yourself. So in your downtime, wherever possible, upskilling, whether it's taking on some kickboxing or doing a sword fighting course, or like you say, horse riding. And you just made me think, I recently heard of an actor who he works a lot as an actor, but to have a sustainable financial life, he's opened a gym. So he's got that on the side. So everyone needs to find something that, because it is a luxury. And it's not just for South Africans. Overseas, it's a luxury to be a working actor back to back.
And even there, I mean, sometimes you're at the top of the food chain and quick, you took the wrong role, or the calls start drying up and then you're at the bottom. Bonnie, for yourself, you spoke about the various pots that you're turning, but you have so many wonderful talents that you've been living out. We talked about creating a story of an African farm, but recently you've also directed a new film. So you've been using all the skills from writing, acting, directing, everything, and it seems to kind of boil together up every now and again, and then you just live it out. Would you mind sharing about that more?
So Story of an African Farm took 13 years. Good Life took 16. So, I mean, it's torturous, but you don't give up, and you have these bursts of time where you put as much time as you can into a project. But I'm self-taught. No, I didn't go to school. I did go to acting school, and I have the wonderful technique that I studied. So that is my backbone. But I didn't go to script writing school or film school or anything like that. I'm self-taught, and I learn by being brave and giving my work out when it's raw and it's terrible, and you get feedback. And you take that feedback, and I don't see it as criticism. I see it as an opportunity to make something better. And so I developed Good Life, the script, over many, many years, just getting it better and better and better. And finally had the opportunity to shoot it during COVID, when actors and crew weren't working and everyone worked at highly reduced rates. I raised the money on my house, which I don't recommend anyone does. It's terrifying, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to risk your home, but I just believed in the project that much. And yeah, so, and that was a culmination of everything, because I find it really easy to direct actors, and that's because of my acting background and the acting I studied. And like you're saying, one thing helps the other. So the acting workshops that I teach help the writing helps the directing, the casting, directing. It's just all, yeah, it all works so beautifully together, and I feel very fortunate to have that, to be honest.
Wow, so stirring a bunch of pots, but let's delve into the difference between those smaller scale productions in terms of casting, direction, how the process works, versus your global phenomena, TV series and movies. What are the differences in terms of expectation on you when you do your casting direction process? Because it's such a vast array of chain of command almost that requires that you need to communicate with. Is it more complex, or is it still more or less the same?
So I think you hit the nail on the head when you said chain of command. So for me, every project feels the same. I'm absolutely passionate about every one I do. I don't differentiate between a smaller project or a bigger one. To me, It's just doing my job the best that I can and finding the best person for the role. And I think that's just basic work ethic, but also comes from, if I was directing this, I want to know that I've seen absolutely everyone and the best person for the role. But the chain of command is where it is different. On big projects, you've got so many people that have a say in every step of the way. So the steps and the levels that you have to go to deliver something is much, much bigger, on a much bigger scale, and many, many more people involved than, let's say, on a smaller project. So it's just having your wits about you and adhering to all the protocols that are in place.
So it takes longer, I suppose, as well, because of
Absolutely.
so many cooks in the kitchen, correct? With only 2 cooks in this kitchen, though. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for sharing with us. It is so rich to hear from the other side. It's daunting to be an actor. It's a very, I would say, very tough decision to take on this path, and you have to have a lot of courage, and I commend every actor taking up this path to go through. And thank you so much for sharing with us how to really prepare, present, and get ready so that we get the best chance to get into that next show or movie. And we truly appreciate you sharing it. Thank you, Bonnie.
Absolute pleasure. And you're a delight. You are so talented at what you do.